Okay, so over the last week, I would say I have been binge watching old episodes of The Real Housewives of of Atlanta. Just spending a little quality time with my mom, and that's what we've been doing. We've just been watching these old episodes of Real Housewives. Don't First of all, don't judge me, okay? I actually used to really enjoy the show way back in the day. Um, when those shows were new, when those episodes were new. But Peacock is now, they have all the episodes on a few of the different series. I don't know if they have every single, Real Housewives, location or iteration, but nonetheless, I've been watching that show, and it's just, I'm just reminded of how horrible they were to each other. And granted, I know that the show is just entertainment, right? And most of it is not real, if not all of it, not being real. But so I get that, and I get that that's all a part of the reason why those shows are so successful and popular because of, all the drama. But it just really got me thinking about friendship and wondering how much of shows like that really influence how much we normalize what friendship actually is or what it looks like. So I just wanted to talk about that really quick today because it was just something that I've been thinking about over the last few days. Because like I said, the dynamic between all of the women on the show, it's just such a roller coaster, and honestly it's pretty exhausting for me to watch now. I'm just this is just so much. They're just doing too much. And I don't even know that I necessarily even felt that way back when those episodes were new. And I'm pretty those episodes are probably at least 10, years old. Maybe I'd like to say probably maybe a decade old. If not, if not quite that old. But I feel like the Housewives of Atlanta been out for it was out maybe in 2015. I didn't bother to look it up, but I just know that the episodes are old. And back then, I don't think I was really thinking about the show deeply. I was literally just kind of watching the show for its pure entertainment value, and I just liked a lot of the women on the show. I just thought a lot of them were super interesting. So in any event, going back and watching it now through my 40-plus-year-old lens, I really be thinking about a lot about how they are towards each other. I mean, like I said, granted, I know it's just entertainment and and stuff like that. I know a lot of it is edited in a way to create these characters around these real people, right? But I just kind of think I'm just dang, these women are just it's so much drama. They're always backstabbing each other. They're always talking about each other. They'll one minute they're best friends, the next minute they hate each other, then they're back to being cool, or now one's cool with this one that used to be cool with that one, but they're not cool with that one anymore, but they used to hate the one that they're cool with. It's just so much. And then all of that is under the guise of them calling each other friends, right? They really refer to each other as friends for the most part, right? And I'm just but this is horrible way to treat people that you could call friends, on the show. And I'm just wondering, how much of that actually, especially us as millennials, because we kind of ushered in the reality TV, era. Starting with shows as early as The Real World. I don't know how many of you remember The Real World. It used to come on MTV. I think that was probably one of the first reality TV shows, if I'm not mistaken. But even thinking about that show and how much drama surrounded that show, um, and it's all under the reality, this is real life, right? And so, especially when we were younger watching those shows, I wonder how much of that has like been like ingrained in our thoughts on what's normal, like what normal friendship should be. And then like when I go and think about and watch like Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I'm like, nah, that's messed up. Like, that's crazy how they keep calling each other friends, but they keep doing all of this messed up stuff towards each other. And I'm like, and then just kind of trying to keep up with who's friends with who now and who's not, and what who did what. It's just like super exhausting. And I'm like, bro, like if I had to deal with that, like in real life, with like real friends, I just literally wouldn't have any friends. Like I wouldn't be able to do it. Like I could not be able to do it, especially getting older. And then kind of as a side note, I have been seeing like a lot of content, whether it be podcasts or just YouTube videos or even Instagram posts, maybe, where they kind of talk about how difficult it is to make friends as an adult. And I agree that it is pretty tough making friends as an adult, especially when you're not willing to tolerate a lot of foolishness. I think it's easy when when it's not so, when it's not so deep and you just want maybe people to hang out with or something like that. But like when you're actually looking for like real friendship, I think it is tough. I think it's very tough to do that as an adult. And I think it's even tougher when the people that you kind of, I guess, grew up with, or people that you have been friends with for, decades, maybe out of high school or college, or, that you made at a younger age, but now you're older, and you see how like the dynamic of those friendships change, or how they fade away, or, just end completely. People go on to start their own families, get married, they move away, etc. Right? And so, as an adult, like sometimes, it's just really hard to just maintain a certain level of friendship with some of the people, that you had, as friends earlier in your life. And I'm just speaking generally. I know, obviously there's people who end up having lifelong friendships with people. I understand that, but I'm just talking from just the perspective of just people who do actually try or have a desire to make new friends as adults. I do believe that it is pretty hard to do that. And like I said, and this is more than just, outside of just having people to hang out with, right? So, in any event, getting back to the Real Housewives of Atlanta, it just, you know, I just really do think that a lot of these shows may influence what we, believe, especially at a younger age. I would say like in your 20s, maybe even in your early 30s. And just once you start getting older and you start, you learn, you understand yourself more, you understand your values and the things that are willing to compromise with versus not, you know, maybe have a more, a clearer definition of what friendship looks like, to you. I think it can be pretty tough, and it's very conflicting with what we are, sold, especially on a lot of these reality TV shows and stuff like that. And I just think maybe at a younger age, we probably was just like, oh yeah, that's regular, that's normal, yeah, that's drama, but that's life. You know what I mean? And I'm like, nah, that friendship shouldn't be like that. That shouldn't, when I'm watching these shows and stuff, and I'm just like, man, no, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, I just have to just have no friends. And just thinking about my friendship circle now, it's very small, you know, and, you know, when you think about like, and then my friends are just mainly they're just dispersed. We're just like in different states and stuff like that and stuff like that. But I don't know. That show just really, that's just something that just kept popping up in my mind. I was like, man, I need to talk about this one night. And so I just chose tonight to do it, to talk about just how I just wonder how much that kind of stuff influences what our ideal of what friendship should be. or it should look like, right? But I'm looking at that now through my 40-year-old lens versus, a decade ago. I just don't think I really thought too much deeply about it then when those episodes were new versus how I think about it now. And yeah, it's just funny to me. And then it's just like, that is one of the areas, that I do want to get better at, as far as actually attempting to make new friends at this stage in my life. It's not something that I'm super particularly excited and enthusiastic about. But I know it's necessary, to continue on in the chapters in your life, and it's okay to, have new friends that align more with what you value, and the things that you're interested in and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why I came up too, because it's always just kind of been one of those things. And I think I was reading a book or maybe listening to a podcast episode, about having hobbies, and like, and that's like a good place to start, you know what I mean, when it comes to like finding friends, which, like, because you already have like whatever that hobby is, whether it's running or playing a certain sport or something like that. You know, book clubs, things of that nature. You already have like that initial thing in common or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, because I can't just, it's just too much. Like, it's just, though, just watching that show, I'm just like, I don't understand how they even functioned, and I know they were getting paid, and, they're portraying this certain personality, like, their one aspect of their personality is amplified, right, to make these certain characters, when talking about the reality shows or whatever. And that's just really not how it is in real life. So I don't know. It just was just something that came up that I wanted to, talk about, just because I've been literally spending more time than I'd like to admit watching a lot of those old episodes. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Do you guys still watch Real Housewives of Atlanta? And what do you think about the friendships on that show? Do you believe that that's how, friendship looks, in real life? Or is it just, are we able to just chalk that up to reality TV? Thanks for hanging out with me and chatting. I will see you in the next video. Take care.